Well, hello there, First Calvary family. This is Don, Pastor Don again, and this is another FaceTime with Pastor Don. FACE stands for First and Calvary something like explored or excited or examined or something like that. Anyways, um, I have been in the habit lately of every time I'm at a committee meeting, and I go to a lot of committee meetings, and every time I'm at the end these days and someone says, "Is there any more business?" I usually raise my hand and say, "Can I just tell a story?" And then I just share with people a story of kind of some recent fruit or exciting things that we see God doing through the life of the congregation. Today, I had a finance meeting at noon, and when it was over, I did the same thing and I shared some stories. And the response of people today at finance was the same that I'm getting at all these committee meetings, which is twofold. Number one, just kind of praising God for what he's doing. And then the second one is they say to me, "You should tell more people these stories. Like, people need to hear this." And so I thought I would dedicate our little FaceTime here in my office this week with sharing a couple stories with you. So one story is I get an email about a week ago from this couple, the two scientists, they're professors, they live in the area. And since about 2020, this woman explained to me in her very long, very thoughtful email, she explained that they've been attending remotely through the live stream since about 2020. She and her husband have 5 adopted children with some varying special needs. And so it's difficult to attend in person, as you can imagine. And so she just wanted to thank me for the fact that the church does live streaming, and then to let me know that they have felt more and more called over time to the church and attracted to the church. Like she kind of wrote something like, "God is drawing us to this congregation," and then she sent the email because after a couple years, she said, it's always difficult to get all the kids and get everyone ready and make it to church. And she said, this Advent, we just couldn't stand it. And so her husband stayed home with 1 or 2 kids and she came with the rest. This was a couple Sundays ago. And she just wrote the letter to say it was so amazing to worship in person. And so I wrote her back, and then it was just this beautiful exchange of her like sharing her heart of how blessed her family and their kids are. They look to me to be late elementary school to high school age. It was just a blessing to hear that here's these people that probably none of us have seen until they came just a week ago, and they're a part of our community and they're being blessed as all of us are. So that's encouraging story number one. Encouraging story number two, last night, yesterday afternoon, late afternoon, I met with a couple of grad students. They're from the Middle East, and they've been coming to First Calvary regularly for the last 4 months. And they shared with me their story of how they first were invited to the soup night. We have soup night on Tuesday nights, and that something really powerful happened there. And they were actually tearing up as they were sharing. And they shared how, and you need to know, they grew up in a Muslim context until they came here 4 months ago to the United States. And they shared how people's love and attention and the care that they saw and experienced with people at soup night made a huge impact on them. And so they started coming to church here. And they said coming and hearing worship. And they shared a couple stories. They said whenever the word is being read or someone is preaching from the word and they talk about the Father, the gentleman, the husband told me, he said, "Whenever you all talk about the Father, I cry." And he said, "There's just something about the love of the Father that is just hitting me." They both also shared that the little song that we sing when the kids are coming up for the children's moment, "Jesus loves me, this I know," they said that song has made a huge impact on them. It's one of the highlights of worship for them. It was so beautiful, you guys, hearing them share their story of encountering Jesus and how people have been studying the Bible with them, and someone got them a Bible and they now listen to the Bible app in Persian every morning. and how they're encountering Jesus, and they say, when we hear the word preached, we feel it inside of us. And when we hear Jesus talked about, there's a warmth inside of them. And guys, it was beautiful to hear they've come to faith, and the reason they wanted to meet is they want to be baptized. And so they they're they have faith in Jesus, and they want to profess that faith publicly. What a beautiful story, you guys. This is going to be the fifth and sixth adults from a Middle Eastern Muslim context who've become Christians here at First and Calvary just in the last 2.5 years. Like, that's not normal. I don't know if you guys are used to that. I'm not used to that. I think it's beautiful what's happening. And we have lots of college students, some from overseas, some from locally, who are now a regular part of our community. On these soup nights, we have 25 to 30 college students, many of them grad students, older young adults, I guess I'd say, older students. Many of them now coming to church. And the beautiful thing, so last night was the candlelight service. We had a wonderful time. For those of you who were there, it was just so beautiful. And it was beautiful to see a mix of our Sunday night worship community and the people who are worshiping on Sunday nights, which is a lot of young adults, young professionals in the community, some international students, mingling with people from our Sunday morning service, all worshiping God together. And the really cool thing, that couple from the Middle East was there worshiping. They even helped set out the cookies ahead of time. And that family came back again. I think it was the mom with 4 kids, and they came, and they were just blown away by getting to worship with other folks. Beautiful experiences. That's fruit. Our mission is, as a congregation, is to labor alongside our Father as he draws people to his Son Jesus, and as he grows them as disciples. That's work that God is doing. God is drawing people to his Son Jesus, and we get to labor with him and partner with him in that. And he's growing people as disciples, and we get to partner with him in that. One of my favorite moments last night was when a number of the African grad students came up to Wendy after the service, and they said, "What was that thing during the service where people were shaking the instruments?" And Wendy's like, "The bell choir?" And they're like, "Yeah, we've never seen that before. Can we be a part of the bell choir?" How cool is that, you guys? God's called us. The vision is to be a house of prayer for every generation. And just to see that blossoming, to see that happening, to see the children up there singing worship, to see every generation and people from different nations worshiping God together. So, so cool. So those are the stories I shared at Finance Today. And they were like, "You need to tell people these stories." So there you go. A little bit about First and Calvary Explored. Before I go, just a reminder about some of the things happening during Advent for us as a congregation. You've probably gotten one of these and picked one of these up in worship, and they show different events, different things happening. You can hit the QR code and find out, what's happening with Christmas at First and Calvary. If you haven't picked one of these up, go ahead and pick that up. Or we've got a web page that's just dedicated to what are all the Advent things that we're doing. So check that out. Also, we have these great Advent devotions that Pastor Jamie developed for us. And we just started week 2 of Advent. And so you see each week there's a prayer, there's some scriptures to read, some reflection questions. And these are meant to be done at our tables in our households, and they coincide with the sermon series we're doing out of the Gospel of John. And then finally, Help Wanted. We hand out these Help Wanted pages the first Sunday of every month, but we're always updating them on our website, ways of getting involved, ways of serving, ways of using your gifts. And there's a lot of those opportunities here during Advent as well. So check that out as well. Well, friends, until next time, this has been FaceTime with Pastor Don. I love you guys. I love being your pastor. I love being your brother and worshiping with you. And I hope this week's video was a little bit better quality in terms of the HD-ness. See you guys soon.